Dzień dobry, witam na kolejnym spotkaniu. Tym razem przed nami spółka FEARDEMIC. Spółka zależna Bluebird Team, wydawca gier komputerowych i powiązanych z nimi produktów rozrywkowych. Spółka specjalizuje się w grach z segmentu horror, posiadających silną narrację grozy. FEARDEMIC publikuje głównie gry opracowane przez zewnętrzne studia, wydając je na komputery, konsole PlayStation, Xbox, PlayStation i Nintendo. Zapraszam najpierw na film, a następnie na prezentację, którą w języku angielskim poprowadzi prezes spółki Scott Millard. W odpowiedzi na pytania prezesowi pomoże Finance Manager Damian Pawlak.
Kraków, drugie co do wielkości miasto w Polsce i jedno z najczęściej odwiedzanych średniowiecznych miast w Europie. Siedziba polskich królów i królowych oraz rodzinne miasto Jorama Grossa, Roberta Makłowicza, Roberta Kubicy i oczywiście Bluebird Team. W 2022 roku, jeśli będziecie szukać najciekawszych, najbardziej ekscytujących gier nowej generacji z gatunku horror, znajdziecie je na Podmiejskiej ulicy niedaleko Starego Miasta.
This modest office building has been responsible for some of the most important horror games of a generation. Layers of Fear, The Observer, Blair Witch, The Medium, all conjured into existence in this place. It's also the birthplace of an idea called FEARDEMIC. That's the company that I run, and that is the company we're here to speak about today.
Głównym celem FEARDEMIC jest inwestowanie kapitału w projekty, które pasują do profilu firmy, by zbudować portfolio gier. Jednak portfolio to musi wykraczać poza standardowe platformy i łączyć się płynnie z metaversum. Zatem teraz musimy określić rynek. Dlaczego horror? Dlaczego nie wydawać gier wszystkich gatunków?
It's one of the most common questions we get. Just how big is the addressable market for horror games? The games industry has always classified game genre not by narrative style, but by mechanic. That's why if you ask the average data house the size of the horror games market, you often get a single-digit response. When you dig a little deeper and overlay a narrative taxonomy on a wide range of games released in any one year, you come up with a number not dissimilar to the movie business. We estimate that approximately 18% of all revenue generated from PC and console games in any one year is from games with a narrative style that would classify them as horror in the broadest of terms.
Enough with all this corporate speak. Just show me the games.
Hey guys, I'm Jess and I am very excited and admittedly slightly terrified to be introducing you to the 2022 FEARDEMIC Collection.
The FEARDEMIC Collection.
First off, I'm excited to show you a game called Cosmic: A Journey Among Shadows. Now this one is the brainchild of a group of really experienced devs whose previous work includes contributions to Cyberpunk, Serial Cleaners, and Vampire Coteries of New York. Cosmic: A Journey Among Shadows is a Metroidvania-style action-adventure game set in a multi-layered universe where light and shadow dictate its metaphysical rules. I present you Cosmic: A Journey Among Shadows. That was fantastic. I personally can't wait to see more of Cosmic. But for now, it's time to build stuff. Bloody Hell Hotel is probably the most sinister sandbox building and crafting simulator of all time. Created by Unfold Games, developer of the multi-award-winning Dark, Bloody Hell Hotel offers hundreds of hours of gameplay. It's got dark, whimsical comedy and near infinite amounts of content. Times are hard, resources are scarce, the demons demand blood, and the guests need food. Will anybody really notice if a few guests go missing overnight? I mean, you need resources and no one really needs to know where they came from. I present you Bloody Hell Hotel.
Chateau de Long... the expensive one, please.
Dark was an absolutely iconic game, and I can't wait to see more of this one. But for now, let's head back to 1845. It was supposed to be a breakthrough. They were offering you fame, prestige, and a place in history. You were chosen to lead an expedition prepared by the Royal Navy. However, something went wrong. The nightmare you'll experience in Terra Endless Night is actually based on a true story. This turn-based simulation will require you to lead your crew to safety throughout the perils of madness and the claws of deadly ice. Let's check out Terra Endless Night.
It was supposed to be a simple search and rescue expedition. Soon enough, though, icy waters enveloped our ship, trapping us in this hellishly frigid abyss. Though we are prisoners of ice, I must carry on with my duties as captain and watch over my men, providing them with food, shelter, and justice. Each day, death gathers more of my men into her cold embrace, and the fate of every one of her victims torments my conscience. The endless night, the bitter weather, and the sickening scurvy tear at our minds. How can we stop the insidious spread of this insanity? Perhaps the only thing that can save the crew is terror.
It's time to come back in from the cold. Twisted 2 Studio have been making incredible progress on the upcoming highly anticipated game, Dark Fracture. The game's demo, entitled Dark Fracture Prologue, has been downloaded over 280,000 times, and it's received over 750 very positive reviews on Steam. The game is set to be one of the biggest releases for FEARDEMIC in 2022 and will surely scare the pants off gamers worldwide. Let's check out Dark Fracture. If you haven't checked out Dark Fracture Prologue, make sure you do. It's amazing. Unfortunately, that's all the time I've got for today. I really hope you guys enjoyed our showcase, and make sure you tune in for the next FEARDEMIC showcase. It's gonna be wicked.
I tak to wygląda. Więcej niż tylko wydawca. Ogólne uczucie, nastrój, wrażenie narastającej ekscytacji związane z tym, jak sztuka cyfrowa i biznes mogą stworzyć solidne podstawy dla rozwijającej się firmy wydawniczej w kulturalnej stolicy Europy. Niewielka latarnia na wzgórzu, pracowicie budująca najmroczniejszy i najbardziej przerażający zakątek twojej rozrywkowej kolekcji.
FEARDEMIC, like all great stories before it, did start with a glass of milk. And unlike other stories in the games industry that have either peaked or devolved into this self-fulfilling prophecy of continuity, FEARDEMIC is just getting started. We are moving into the future with an exciting roster of young developers to show that Poland is about value add, not just game creation. At FEARDEMIC, we know exactly what we're doing. We know how to execute, we know how to scale. So why don't you join us as we build a company that we believe can be one of the world's largest single vertical publishers.
But what's next?
It's a FEARDEMIC presentation. We always end with the FEARDEMIC Orchestra.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, they can say
okay.
You and hear you.
Fantastic, and thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate the time that you're spending with us, and I know you're going to have some questions about FEARDEMIC and some of the things that you've seen. But first, before we get there, it'd be great just to touch on a few points from the video and also add some extra information for you. So okay. Oh yeah, I can do this way. So just to recap, FEARDEMIC is a publisher specialized in the narrative of horror. We have across the portfolio 10 separate IPs, which represent about 26 different revenue lines across all platforms: Xbox, Switch, PC, and PlayStation. And just a point I want to add or want to harp on is that horror is not a game mechanic. And I mentioned that before in regards to how the games industry has classified genre in the past and how we classify it. And our goal is to create a broad spectrum of horror games that run the gamut from low intensity through to high intensity. And by that I mean that low intensity horror games such as Cosmic that can appeal to a wider audience or a younger audience, up to more high intensity horror products such as Dark Fracture that appeal to a more adult audience. Specialization in this particular narrative is a huge advantage for us. Number one, I think the horror customer is much more engaged. They're much more interested in products that are surrounding that narrative, and they can be transferred from one to another. And secondly, and most importantly, they're very active and they're quite engaged. I just want to go across the core mission of FEARDEMIC. So number one, we are developing a platform from which capital can be deployed into projects which suit our narrative vertical, not just here in Poland, but all over the world. It's really important to understand that FEARDEMIC from the get-go have tried to create a portfolio of international products. Number two, to build a community of users that are interested and engaged in horror, that we can, as of number three, deliver consistently high quality content to them. Whether they're a younger audience or an older audience, our job is to manage those sort of different audiences within the community. And number four, most importantly, is to build a standalone brand around FEARDEMIC, so that FEARDEMIC can be a capsule that carries all of the different games that we publish, or all the different products that we publish within that capsule, so that wherever that capsule goes, wherever the entertainment industry moves to in the future, we can take that capsule with us, and we will be recognizable and stand out amongst our competitors. And just some more information in regards to the narrative taxonomy. I know I wanted to put this in here because some people are kind of are not familiar with how we have come up with this number. Now, essentially, if you overlay this graph across like the usual genres of first-person shooters, of strategy games, of adventure games, etc., you come up with a narrative simply like this, that of sci-fi, contemporary themes, fantasy narratives, historic narratives, and of course horror narratives. And this is where you get that 18%. Of course, there will be some overlap which will actually increase that 18%. But essentially, we estimate that it's worth about 13.1 billion US dollars per year. So we think there's a significant enough slice and interest in this type of narrative to create a sizable company. And often we talk about sales and our ability to sell product to the community that we're building, but we don't often talk about the other side of it as well. And it's important to note that FEARDEMIC, we do add a lot of value to the developers that we work with, and that value comes in 4 different pillars, which is production, porting, publishing, and marketing. And whilst it is true to say that a lot of other publishers offer the same range of services, where we differ is that we have a founding partner in Bloober Team, and we bring significant expertise in not only the narrative genre, given Bloober Team's background, but also technical competency given the success that their games have had over the past few years. And from a technical standpoint, no one can argue that the Bloober Team games aren't some of the best in the world. So, and as you can see, this is a quote from Vladimir Hulitz, which is the CEO of Unfold Games. He signed a publishing deal with FEARDEMIC after rejecting about 11 other publishers, quite famously from a thread in Reddit. He pointed that out. But again, we were able to sort of bring a genuine, authentic experience of publishing this game as it was a horror game. And people often ask me about Bloober Team and what they mean to FEARDEMIC as far as being a partner. And I will say that one of the things that has struck me over the past 2 years is that every developer that we have spoken to in all corners of the globe usually are developing a horror game because of an experience with a game called Layers of Fear. So many people have played that game. So many people have owned that game now. It really is the game that has launched 1,000 horror games. And it is a great privilege to sort of be part of the Bloober Team group of companies and family of companies. So let's get to the portfolio, the evolution of the portfolio. Some of you are familiar with the games that we've had in the past, and we've just presented to you some of the games that we will have next year and in Q1 2023. But we can't start without mentioning Dark. Dark was and has been and continues to be presently our biggest selling title, and it's won multiple awards. The last quarter of 2021 was its biggest quarter yet, even though the game has been technically available for almost 2 years now. Well, a year and a half, sorry. The game continues to find new audiences, and we think it's still got a lot of legs in it as yet. As I mentioned, this last quarter was our biggest selling quarter to date, and Halloween, the Epic Game Store actually gave it away for free, and instead of actually hurting our sales, it drove our sales revenue and interest in the game as well. I mean, as we find, the more people that play it, the more people are out there to recommend it to their friends. And that is essentially the snowball effect. We're very lucky to have this game. It has really turned into an evergreen title for us. Moving on to some of the other ones that you saw previously, Cosmic: A Journey Amongst Shadows, a great example of low-intensity horror, one that we believe will have a much wider audience than our hardcore games. We intend to target this towards a younger audience as well as a general audience. And secondly, I must say, you saw a world premiere of the trailer of Bloody Hell Hotel today. Nobody else has seen that. We intend to launch that to the public sometime in Q1. But as with Dark, and as we continue to build the fan base of Dark, there's a lot of people out there waiting for the new Unfold game, and we believe that this game coming in 2023 will satisfy that. And certainly the interest now in simulations, the interest in strategy games, this sort of covers a lot of bases, and a game that we think too will be very engaging for content creators and influencers, given that every time you play this game, you will have a different outcome. There are so many different variables in it. It is a very, very deep and deep and satisfying experience. And we look forward to start kicking off the marketing for this early next year. Terra Endless Night is from a Warsaw developer called Unseen Silence, who I know that you've heard of, and they're currently in another room doing a presentation for their company. We're really excited to work with them. They've got a lot of contacts within the industry here in Poland and a lot of projects on the go, and we hope that this is the first of many titles that we work with them on. Dark Fracture, of course. I think most of you may be familiar with this title. If you're not, I really do recommend you go out there and download Dark Fracture Prologue. 280,000 people beforehand have downloaded it already, and many or most of them are incredibly satisfied and are looking forward to the main game, which we will have towards the end of 2022. October 2022 is the target date for that. So we will start intensively marketing this product from Q1 of 2022. Now, just as far as the team goes, my name's Scott Millardo. I've been in the games industry for many years, previously heading up Namco Bandai throughout Asia. And this is an absolute privilege to be here now building a company from scratch with some really high quality people from Poland. And we continue to build our team. We have recently secured the services of Diana Biszczanek, whom comes to us from No Gravity Games. She's been there for the last year. She has a lot of experience within the games industry here in Poland, and we look forward to working with her over the next 12 months. Just as far as our growth goes, 2021, and we're just talking about revenue here. Our revenue is up 381% year on year. I came to start working with the FEARDEMIC product early in 2020, and throughout the last 2 years, we've been growing every month. So we're really excited about our growth, and we expect to continue it into 2022. So 2022 and beyond. So I think everybody would understand that building a pipeline of entertainment products is capital intensive, and our growth, our speed at growing is directly connected to our access to capital. And the current market conditions have sort of led to unique opportunities. Number one, on the supply side, the amount of games being developed globally and the amount of them looking for publishers is a unique opportunity to build a solid pipeline. And secondly, of course, the valuation being put on those pipelines once they've been created. Recently, there's been a lot of listing activity in the UK, some big names, Team 17, Tiny Build, Devolver, all listing with big valuations. And again, that has not escaped our attention. So, of course, as a result of those points not escaping our attention, we are taking advice on our ability to list. And the advice that we've taken so far would be that, in line with the goals that we have to create a sizable company, not just a small independent developer or publisher, that the main Warsaw Stock Exchange would be the best board for us to be listed on. And, we continue to seek further input on that. And as far as the time frame goes, well, this is the time frame of the key products that we have coming up. Dark Fracture, of course, the end of 2022, Bloody Hell Hotel in early 2023. And up until that point, of course, we've got Terra Endless Night and Cosmic. And that is not an exhaustive list, by the way. We are working on a lot of other sort of deals to deliver more product within this time frame. I can tell you from our experience over the last 12 months, we've spoken to over 100 developers, and we've got a lot of them in discussion at the moment. We hope to have another 2 to 3 announced soon. We expect that our listing would, or our application to list would be at some point within this timeline. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, how come you're sort of talking in riddles here a little bit? Well, please understand that Bloober Team are our largest shareholder, and they are already a listed company. And I think you can read between the lines what we are saying, and you can come to conclusions about what is definitely going to happen here. So we're really excited to be working on FEARDEMIC, or working with all the developers that we have. We really do believe that we can make a world-class publisher, one of the biggest single vertical publishers in the world. We look to Paradox for inspiration on that one. You know, we've got a long way to go. We're not kidding ourselves about the amount of work ahead of us, but we are very optimistic that we can do it. We have the expertise. We have the understanding on how to scale this. We have the experience in publishing. We are just moving forward with that in mind. And on that note, I will turn the floor over to yourselves, and please do feel free to ask us any question. How could I describe my FEARDEMIC experience? Terrifying. But essentially, it has been a joy. I think I've told the story many a times before about, you know, how I met Peter Babiano, and I described to him that, you know, I was searching for a publisher, a small publisher, that, you know, needed some recapitalization, was in distress, and needed some help that I could, you know, add some value to and you know, make my own. And he looked at me and said, basically, oh, I have one of those. It's called FEARDEMIC. And from there, we got to talking, and you know, and when I did actually finally, you know, get in control of FEARDEMIC, it was very tiny. It was a very, very tiny publisher, and you know, we've been able to grow it quite significantly over the past 24 months, and you know, so far the experience has been fantastic. Obviously, you know, we've all had challenges with the pandemic, and you know, working from home, and dealing with many sort of trials and tribulations attributed to that. But generally, the experience has been fantastic, and it's only going to get better. Well, I think coming to Poland was a decision that was made by Poland. There's so many game developers here. There's so much activity here. I had spent many years in Asia, and you know, I looked at the map and knew that essentially my future was not in Asia. It was either going to be in Europe or the USA, and but it was just literally by happenstance that you know, I chose to come have a look at Poland first. And, you know, I did some consultancy work here and came across Peter during that time. So, you know, it was a little bit of luck. And so far, the experience has been fantastic. My family have settled in nicely. And, you know, I hope that FEARDEMIC will mean that we can call Poland home for quite some time. How is it to be part of a strong producer like Bloober Team? Well, as I sort of hinted to, originally I thought it might be difficult. I mean, being I suppose being a small part of a bigger company has always been difficult. But again, once we started talking to developers and going out and talking to developers from everywhere from South America to the USA to the Middle East to Asia in regards to us publishing their games, we quickly realized that how important that being part of Bloober Team is, and how important the experience of Layers of Fear has been to so many up and coming developers all over the world. So, you know, we have no intention of separating ourselves from Bloober Team. We really feel that, you know, without having Bloober Team, their expertise, their credibility, and the experience that they bring to the table, FEARDEMIC would not be the same. You know, and we you know, also from a technical perspective as well, we are able to leverage a lot of the relationships that Bloober Team has, in whether it be in QA, whether it be in production skills, whether it be 3D modeling. There's so many things that we can that Bloober Team have been able to help us with. In fact, you know, there's a lot of cooperation now between some of the team in Bloober Team and the guys at Dark Fracture, sharing assets and knowledge and some various different things as well. So there's good transfer of knowledge happening. So I'm really happy to be working with Bloober Team, and I can't imagine it any other way. Well, the strength of FEARDEMIC primarily is number one, our focus on a single narrative. That means that we can specialize and that we can really focus on building that community and delivering that community the best range of low intensity and high intensity horror games. The second strength, obviously, is, as I mentioned before, that we're part of something that's much bigger. We're not constantly trying to fight our way to people's attention, and we're not trying to be everything to everybody. We are part of Bloober Team. Bloober Team have a fantastic reputation, and we're able to leverage on that reputation. And as far as being a publisher goes, I mean, I think the strengths of a publisher versus other types of investments in studios alone means that we have spread our risk and our ability to build a pipeline of products. So if any one title does not work or does not sort of find an audience, then we can just move on. Our sort of ability to recover quickly from any problem is quite well renowned, and hence why publishers around the world are still very good businesses, very solid businesses. So again, a publisher, we can scale a lot easier than if we were simply a game developer. We have at the moment 10 different IPs, so there's 10 different teams that have all contributed to FEARDEMIC's success. And as we bring more development teams into the pipeline, then we will then benefit from that scaling as well. So the publishing business model, it still works, and it's still important. Number two, our association and partnership with Bloober Team, and number one, the fact that we deal in a single narrative community. What age group? We want to target all ages. I mean, I think that if you look at entertainment at the moment, horror has enjoyed a huge renaissance, not just in games, but in books, in film, in TV. It has become something of this fantastic revival. And I mean, I have young children. They play Roblox. Their favorite game is Piggy. It's a horror narrative game. And I really hope that over the next 10 years, we develop quite a significantly sized pipeline that have games that are for children, whether it be licenses like Addams Family or things like Monster High, or whether it be original IPs from developers that have made products specifically for a young market, up to high intensity horrors, which are like the Dark Fractures, like psychological horrors, or IPs such as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, etc., etc. So there's so much scope that we can work with, and within the mechanics, the game mechanics, I mean, I don't think there's any mechanic that can't be infused with a horror narrative. Even sports games, whether it be licenses such as Blood Bowl or Death Driving, it's an unlimited palette that we can work with. So we're really excited that we're in this vertical, and hence why it was so attractive when Peter Babiano explained his thesis of horror. The more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, yeah, he is absolutely 100% correct. We haven't announced the release date of Terror Endless Night yet, but we will soon. We expect that we will release the information within the next couple of weeks. We will be glad to in the next couple of weeks. Again, we've only recently started our cooperation with Unseen Silence, and I know they're in another room now telling you all about their company and their plans for the future. But we're really grateful to work with them. We know they have recently acquired some really exciting people to work on the final builds of Terra Endless Night. But over the next couple of weeks, we will be launching the Steam page and launching the first of many trailers and announcing the release window. But it should be within, as per my last slide, within the first or second quarter of 2022.
Okay, so this one is in Polish, so let me quickly translate for you, Scott, but I will answer. So how much we spend on per game and what percentage of return we have then later on after return of our costs. So the answer is not that simple, because that depends on the agreement and the needs of developer. It depends on, you know, what costs we need to do before the game is released. Depends on the agreement with the publisher itself, and depends on the cycle of the game as well. So it's not that easy to calculate in general, and it can be done after some time, after a few months of game, when the game is released, and then we can see the sales. With Dark, we can say that the sales of the game have been really, really good for so many months. Even, you know, after, as Scott mentioned, after the free weekend on Epic, we've been expecting that this part will basically take some of our sales on different platforms, but the giveaway they did on Epic did a snowball effect. So basically we had the best selling weekend for Dark this year, even it was at the same time free on the Epic Store games. So it's not that easy to answer that question, unfortunately, but yeah, Scott, if you want to add something.
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, look, I have been in the games industry since the 90s, and since I joined a console manufacturer called Sega. And one of the great things about the games industry is how the margins have been consistently good. Our margins now in 2021 with Dark are extremely good. Obviously, at the moment, we're really focused on building our top line revenue rather than focusing on margin integrity. However, you know, we know that the time will come at some stage in the near future where that will be important. But we have the generous gross margins that you would expect to find in a publisher already within our pipeline of products. And you know, again, going back to the advantage of being a publisher, I think you will know that, I mean, you know, the amount of headcount that you need in the publishing side of the business is much more favorable compared to the development side. And you can see that in the sort of headcount ratios of companies like Playway compared to sort of, you know, others like CDP. So publishing business is good. The margins are good. At the moment, it's not our number one focus. We've got our eye on it though. But you know, we have the margins there to work with in the future. What markets do we plan to expand to in the future? So right now, over the past 12 months, we really have focused on one market, and that's the USA. And our revenue over the past 12 months, I can safely say, won't be that surprising to anybody, that probably almost about 70% of our revenue has come from the US. So we've got a lot of work to do over the coming 12 months, 2 years to get a better result out of Europe, and also, of course, Asia, which I have a lot of experience in. You know, almost 10 years of experience there, and you know, we haven't really started to, you know, poke at that bear yet. It's a little bit more complicated than the EU or the US markets, but there's a market there to be had. So we certainly will be looking at that. But we will continue, no doubt, really focusing our attention on the US. You know, it's been very good. That market's been good to us with Dark, and you know, we will continue to focus and grow that market. Well, we have two really big games in the pipeline, and that's number one, Dark Fracture. That's at the end of 2022. That one has the most immediate feedback for us, whether the demo downloads and the wish lists that we're sitting on. We're sitting on a considerable amount of wish lists on that title. We also believe that Bloody Hell Hotel has a lot of pent-up demand for Unfold's next title. There's been lots of activity recently on social media in regards to pressure on Unfold to announce what their next project is. And when we do announce that in early next year, we feel that will quickly become, a high demand project, a high demand product with a lot of wish lists. So, I mean, the dark community is quite large. We have no doubt that will also be a very big title for us. So we have two really big titles in the immediate pipeline. Yeah, I mean, will we hire sort of more people in the near future? I mean, yes. I mean, our team's expanding now. We've just had 3 people start yesterday. But, again, we're very mindful of the balance between what our revenue is and what our headcount is. I've had a lot of years doing this, and I know that's very important to have a good balance of headcount to revenue, and it's very important for us to manage that. So, and being in the publishing business, we don't really need huge amounts of people. So I expect that by mid to the end of next year, we would probably have around 10 people on the team directly. Plus, of course, we are lucky enough to be able to outsource some of our sort of tasks to third-party companies or our parent company, Bloober Team. Sharing, again, I alluded to that when I provided information on the presentation. As Bloober Team is the largest shareholder and essentially all our revenues and costs are consolidated into our Bloober Team at this moment, we are not sort of able to share our exact costs or exact revenues, as Bloober Team does not provide guidance on those things. So unfortunately, I can't give you that information in this type of forum. That's a very good question. Thank you very much. Do we want to, how are we going to achieve our growth goals? Well, I mean, I think, I don't think it would be, exciting news to anyone to sort of hear that we are looking at both organic and non-organic options. Organic being our growth with games that we sign and games that we publish, and that's the information that I've provided you with today. Of course, there's a lot of attractive acquisition targets out there, and I think over the next 12 months, we may find some potential companies that we might absorb or partner with to achieve our goal a little quicker than trying to do it on our own. As I said, there's so much opportunity out there at the moment, and we're looking at everything. And certainly, the advisors that we have spoken to have indicated that a strategy like that makes a lot of sense at this particular point in time. So don't be surprised to see if we partner up with somebody at some point. Yeah, I mean, so the graphics in our game portfolio and seem a bit dated. I mean, look, we all have to start somewhere, and I do think that what we have been able to achieve over the last 2 years has been significant, given the environment that we work within. So inevitably games will look better, and our games will end up looking better as well. Now, I want to say something here about Bloody Hell Hotel. It's a 2D game. And I think one of the conscious decisions that were taken with Bloody Hell Hotel is that we are going to make it 2D, and we're going to make it beautiful, and we're going to make it interesting and fun to play with and engaging. Now, the reason it's 2D is because we think, and Unfold Games thinks, and I agree with this statement, that within the next 2 years, all games are going to look beautiful. I mean, if you've been working with Unreal Engine 5 and the various different technologies and the Unity, the various different plugins, all games are going to look wonderful because the barrier to entry is lowering every week. With Dark Fracture at the moment, some of the builds I've seen, the effects and the ability, what they've been able to achieve using ray tracing technology with just a few people has been astounding. I mean, 10 years ago, you would need a team of 30, 40 people to do that. So I think over the next couple of years, you're going to see 3D games becoming very all indie games looking fantastic, and really at the end of the day it's all going to be about the gameplay and the actual quality of the narrative. And secondly, another point I want to make here is I worked at Namco Bandai for a lot of years, and I remember we used to look at Dragon Ball every year and say, oh God, this looks like a PlayStation 1 game. But again, it comes down to the quality of the narrative and the quality of the story. And I know we've got a long way to go. Our developers have got a long way to go. We are working with them very hard to improve that. And like every company that can see its own faults, we are working hard to rectify those. So I hope I've answered your question.
Okay, so another one in Polish. So with IPO in 2022, about what capitalization you thinking of, how much money you would like to gather from the market. So the first thing to address here is, I think that we are taking advice, what Scott mentioned before, that a main Warsaw stock market will be the most beneficial for us if you would like to debut on stock market right now, and that's basically in line with our long-term goals. Sorry. And we cannot really say about anything about capitalization, because if you look at our pipeline and we are still in talks with a lot of devs, that can change. That can change, and that connects also to the question, to the previous question, the one before, about if you would like to partner with any game dev studios that make valuation of company a little bit higher as well. About the question how much money we would like gather, of course, as much as we could. Yeah, I think that's the answer to this question.
Okay. So who is responsible for game marketing? Well, we have an in-house team. As I mentioned to you, we had 3 people start with us only yesterday. So and those people are headed by Diana Biskanek, who was previously marketing director with No Gravity Games. So she's heading that team. We also, of course, use outsourced PR agencies, as do most people. It is a process that we are building on, and we expect our marketing team to expand over the coming 12 months as well. Most of our resources, in fact, are basically being directed now towards our marketing team. Who? Never heard of them. Next. Honestly, I think everybody knows who Tencent is. They're the elephant in the room, and I know recently they have purchased some shares of Bloober Team, but other than that, I mean, they have no impact on our operations at all as yet, and we don't expect them to. Yes, absolutely. We have absolutely will continue to work with Bloober Team, and we have no ambition to have it any other way. It's been an absolute pleasure. Draw distance. Literally, they're right across the road from our office, and we know them, of course, Michal and Jacek very well. And personally, I think they're a fantastic developer, and they've got some amazing stuff in the pipeline. But everyone knows we did Ritual together. We worked together with Ritual, and the results of that game were not as promising as we had hoped, but again, we tried quite hard with that. And I mean, that's the great thing about publishing, in that, we can try various different things, and, I don't think we have given up yet on that IP. I think it's a good IP, it's a good idea, and we will continue to discuss that with Draw Distance and see where we go from here. But no, we really really enjoy working with the guys at Draw Distance. They're part of the same capital group, and we no doubt will work with them again in the future at some point. All these things we are taking advice on. So, again, I think you can read between the lines of what we're saying here, that it's probably going to happen within the timeline that I showed in the presentation. It's not going to happen swiftly. It will happen at the right time. We are being very careful about how we move forward and how we sort of build the company and prepare it for that. So I think you can deduct that it will happen sometime within the timeline that I showed on screen. Really good question. Do we want to publish only games, and why? Well, funnily enough, I mean, the games industry is a multimedia industry. It has been, and for a long, long time, companies like Riot Games have been producing all sorts of content, from filmed content to music content to gaming content, and we expect that we will do the same. And my vision for FEARDEMIC for the next decade is to become a true multimedia company and be producing all types of content. That doesn't say that we're going to start a movie distribution business tomorrow. That's not going to happen. We're going to focus on our core product, which is games, but we will be producing content across all platforms, and within the next few years, we will start exploring other digital delivery platforms and how we can produce content for it as well. I think game companies will start to evolve into true multimedia companies, and the metaverse and the 3D universe is coming very quickly at us will force us to do that. Do we want to expand our portfolio with more and more games in the coming year? Yes. I mean, of course, we are looking at doing that. I do think at the moment, we're sort of looking for a range around 1 game per month. That's our short-term goal. In the longer term, of course, that can change. I mean, I started in this games industry when we were also working with first party and distribution, so it wasn't unusual to have 5 to 10 games per month that we were delivering to the market. So, I think things have evolved a lot since then, and some publishers exist on just one title. Some people can release first-person shooter once a year, and that's fine. But I believe that we have a duty to sort of build a bigger pipeline, and even if we do have successful products that are usually successful, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be developing new IPs all the time. We should not be resting upon our laurels. So yes, we will continue to add games to our portfolio, and no matter how successful they become, we will keep on exploring new IPs and new ideas. Thank you for that question. Yes. So are we only interested in single player games, or do you see a possibility of enriching the portfolio with online games? I love the idea of games as a service, and I love the idea of being able to provide an environment with ongoing revenue streams. So we are, yes, of course, we're actively looking around for the right product. So the answer to your question is yes, online games definitely. Single player games, however, will always occupy a part of our portfolio. Premium games, there's always a market for that. I've been around long enough to remember when I was at Atari, The Witcher arriving on our release schedule at a time when World of Warcraft was, the game, when everyone was telling us that, online games were the way of the future. Single player games are finished. No one wants to play those anymore. But I think history has told us that there's always a customer that's interested in a single-player premium game. So we will continue looking for those, but certainly online games are of high interest at the moment. So, and I think, in the online game space, it's very underserved when it comes to horror. I know there are a few interesting ones out there at the moment, and we hope to sort of get involved in a few upcoming ones that may appear in 2023, 2024.
Thank you, guys. It's all question for today. So thanks for your presentation and answer for questions.
Thank you very much. Anya, thanks very much for organizing this. And if anyone has any further questions or would like to take a one-on-one meeting, they can contact Anya at Strict Minds, and she will be happy to organize it.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, guys. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.